In this video, I want to share exactly how much money YouTube paid me in 2022 running this medium-sized channel with 71,000 subscribers. And perhaps more importantly, I want to share how YouTube fits into the bigger picture of running a company, since that's where I feel like most of the value is really being created. Here's the overview of how my channel did in 2022. I made $9,021 over the year across 2.6 million views across all the videos I published. And you can see from below the graph that I was pretty consistent about publishing at least one video every week throughout the year. The first thing to realize is that YouTube is very spiky. I had a couple of videos throughout the year that hit the algorithm and really took off. For example, about me leaving Facebook, and a bunch of videos about FANG and big tech life and how to succeed. And that contributed the majority of the views and revenue. For example, you can see how November was my best month by far. I had a couple days in November where I was making more than $140 or $150 per day in revenue in the month of November, leading to my best month ever, around $1,700 of revenue. But that was followed very quickly by one of my worst months of the year in December, where I was making a couple dollars per day and my total revenue for that month was around $400. When you make content for YouTube, it's worth thinking about how you want people to discover you. And there are two broad categories here. Number one is search traffic. So these are people searching for your video and they click on it and watch it. And number two is the YouTube algorithm recommending your video to relevant people. So I have both examples on my channel. Here is a video I made which covers the fundamentals of the Kotlin programming language in 12 minutes. And this video has done phenomenally well. It has had 208,000 views over the past 2.5 years or so. And this one video alone has made more than $1,000. And what you can see is the majority of people are finding this Kotlin video through YouTube search. So they're searching for Kotlin or Kotlin tutorial and landing on this video and watching it. On the other hand, you have videos which do really well through YouTube recommending them. So here's an interview I did with Rachel Zhao, a director of engineering at Airbnb, talking about getting to staff engineer and getting promoted as a software engineer. And this video also did quite well initially, but people don't know to search for this content, right? And so at some point it kind of plateaus out. And as you expect, the vast majority of people here are watching this video because YouTube recommended this content in their homepage. And so the trade-off is that when you go in that direction and you want to make really compelling titles and thumbnails and topics, sometimes those videos are not as search friendly. And so you should expect that you're going to make content and then at some point it'll plateau and you won't get that constant stream of traffic in a way that you would get if you were a channel optimizing for search. But the reason I made that change is because I feel like when you focus on content which is recommended to people and people just share it with their friends and family, that's how you build a deeper relationship with the audience. It's a little bit less utilitarian, but you are able to create a longer term relationship with the viewer. One consequence of this, coming back to the revenue chart on my channel, is that the revenue and the views you get are really spiky and you can't really predict how much money or how many views you're going to get in a given month. People have this notion that YouTube is passive income and you just keep making more and more money from it every month, but that's definitely not true. If I stopped making videos for 4 or 5 months, my revenue would drop precipitously. I'd probably make less than $100 a month. And that's why doing YouTube full-time is a really scary thing. Unlike being a W-2 full-time employee at a tech company where you can expect a pretty high salary every 2 weeks, every year, you're going to continue getting paid. You don't have that guarantee as a YouTuber. The last component of what I want to cover when it comes to YouTube earnings is how much money you get for every view on your channel. And that is dictated by CPM and RPM. So on my channel, my CPM is about $13 and the RPM is around $3.60. The way I think about it is CPM is what an advertiser is paying YouTube for 1,000 impressions of their ad, which you might see before a video or in the middle of a video. And RPM is the more creator focused metric. So for those 1,000 ad impressions, how much do I as the creator get? And the difference is what YouTube is taking as a tax. These two numbers, RPM and CPM, have a pretty huge impact on how much you end up making as a YouTube channel. And all things considered, these numbers are actually relatively high because I am making content, I'm making videos for a relatively affluent tech audience, primarily based in the US. And so there is actually a lot of buying power there and advertisers are willing to pay. But it could go much higher. I've heard that for finance channels, they're making videos about credit cards or other finance topics, the CPM could be double or more. The main thing to keep in mind with YouTube is that how much you earn will be dictated by how many views you drive and how long people are watching your content. And so I've actually seen channels with 500,000 subscribers, even 1 million subscribers, but they're relatively dormant. And so when they publish a video, the algorithm hates them and they get maybe 5 or 10,000 views. So despite having a huge number of subscribers, they're actually not making any more money than me, and they could be making less than me. To provide some background, I didn't start my YouTube channel until late 2019 while I was still employed at Facebook. And here's a graph of my subscriber count growth and my earnings growth per year. 2022, this past year, was by far the best year, but I didn't actually have any revenue coming in from my channel until early 2021. And most of the value has been created in that past year. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind if you're thinking about starting a channel or doing any kind of content creation endeavor, is that you have to stick with it. I would say that it's actually pretty straightforward to get to the point where I am if you're willing to commit and you're consistent. So if you're willing to put in 10 to 15 hours a week, making higher and higher quality videos over time in the same niche, it's actually not that hard to get to a meaningful number of subscribers, a meaningful amount of revenue. The hard part isn't actually creating one good video if you spend a week on it. I'm sure anyone watching, if you spend 10 or 20 hours, you could make a really high quality video with a ton of insight. The hard part is doing that week over week, month over month for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and doing it consistently over time. That's really how you get the benefit of growth and compounding. The only revenue source I have from YouTube is through their ad program called AdSense. And in 2022, like we talked about, I made $9,000, which is really nothing to sneeze at, but you can't live off of that. In fact, even if I were 10x bigger and I had one of the largest tech career channels on the whole platform, on all of YouTube, I would still only make $90,000 of ad revenue, which is a small fraction of what I was making as a staff engineer at Meta. And I can tell you, I definitely didn't leave my job to make $9,000 a year. And so the question becomes, how do YouTubers actually make a livable wage? The answer is through building up other revenue streams, which come in one of two flavors. Number one is selling sponsorships within videos, which basically means getting sponsors to pay you to plug their products in videos. And number two is to sell your own product or service, which means that you can build a company based off the credibility that you've built with the audience. What any creator worth their salt realizes is that once you have an audience of a certain size, you now have one of the most valuable assets in the world, which is people's attention. Distribution is one of the hardest things for any company to get. And so selling that distribution, that attention, is the way that the majority of creators make the real money. A lot of people I've talked to while I was working at Meta or within the Taro community have an ambition of starting a company. And I think this playbook of building up distribution, building up an audience first, and then being able to build a product or service customized for your audience, that's going to become more and more common. In fact, my prediction is that the creator economy will be the primary way that consumers build trust with a brand. David Friedberg actually talks about this in one of the episodes of the All In podcast.
I have a really strong belief that in the next 30 years or so, all traditional brands are going to die. And I think that what we're seeing happening right now with the power of democratized media, like us creating a podcast, there are hundreds and now thousands of individuals who have stood up and created their own brand and their own presence because of the content that they create on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, etc., on podcasting. And as a result, they become the trusted sources of influence, and it's why they're called influencers. And ultimately, these influencers are becoming the brands.
The idea is that if you're building a company that sells to consumers, a critical ingredient for you to win is you need to have a very low customer acquisition cost or a very low CAC. And the beauty of platforms like YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever other creator platform you want to go to, that's how you're able to very much lower the CAC and get free distribution. And that means that you don't have to rely on inorganic channels like Facebook ads or Google ads. And once you have that credibility, once you have that trust, you can get people lower in the funnel from awareness to consideration to decision. And when people actually land on your website, they actually already have a lot of trust with you and the service, and the purchase decision becomes much, much easier. The other approach for YouTubers to make money, and the more popular one, is to have sponsors. And the idea here is that a company will pay a YouTuber for a 30-second plug in one of their ads, and the YouTuber can charge way more to that company compared to what they would get from YouTube. But they would charge thousands of dollars per video. And that's how you are able to actually get back to a reasonable total compensation compared to a tech worker. I've never done any sponsored videos on my channel for two reasons. Number one, I think that I have the ability to create something way more valuable for my audience because I know them much better than any sponsor would. And number two, when you take on a sponsor, you're effectively staking your reputation on them. And there have been a lot of instances where the product that you're plugging on behalf of someone else ends up being low quality. Or even worse, the product that you're plugging is a scam. And I don't want to go through the effort of having to build up trust and validate all the products I'm plugging. I would rather build something that I obviously believe in because I built it. The other thing to keep in mind is that as an entrepreneur, there's a huge value in plugging your own product because you're able to take people off platform. You're able to extend your relationship with the viewer beyond YouTube. Right? I mean, YouTube is an amazing place to grow, but the fact of the matter is that I'm competing for your attention with literally millions of other videos, millions of other thumbnails, which are also easy to click on. And I also have a very limited relationship with you. I don't have your email. I can't send you notifications. There are a lot of things that aren't in my control because I'm playing in this sandbox of YouTube. The playbook I'm running is that I want to build up trust with a bunch of people on YouTube and then bring them off platform to a place where I have a much more intimate relationship with the viewer. And because I have a much deeper relationship, I can deliver way more value to them. I can really help them in their career, get promoted, get onboarded quicker at their career. And anytime you're able to create that much value, you can usually build a business out of that. This is what we've been doing for Taro, and it's working phenomenally well. We got into Y Combinator last summer, and we booked more than $100,000 of revenue within 4 months of public launching, and we've spent $0 in advertising. In 2022, I made $9,000 from YouTube. But the bigger story is being able to use the distribution and trust from YouTube and turning that into a company. And I think that that will be a template going forward. The majority of businesses going forward will be started off of the back of creator platforms like YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then using that audience to build a really promising and successful business. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.